This is another episode of Recapping with Recapped, where we interview revenue leaders and go-to-market specialists at the end of the year. Really refreshing and thinking about 2023 as we go into 2024 and learning and really becoming optimistic and hopefully crushing 2024 in a way that we didn't with 2023. This episode is with Anis Bennaceur. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Would love to have you give a quick little intro. Who are you? What do you do? What's really interesting about it?
Yeah, so I'm Anis. I'm the founder and CEO of Attention. This is my second startup. Attention is a conversational AI platform focused on sales and more broadly revenue teams. We help your sales team automatically fill your CRM within a few seconds based on their touch points with their customers. And now a lot more. We help you understand what's happening with your customers, your deals, and within your sales reps.
That's awesome. Do you have an ideal ICP persona? What's your go-to-market?
Yeah, ICP has been evolving throughout the year. Just to give you more context, we started selling in February of this year in 2023. Team size has just been growing over time. Now we mostly target, sales teams between 20 to 200 sales reps. So it is still a pretty broad range. But I would say that earlier this year, we were targeting very, very small teams, generally under 10 reps at the beginning of the year. The reason why is because initially when you go out and sell, you don't have the resources, you don't have the product, you don't have the features and the capabilities to be able to sell to larger teams. So you just sell to teams under 10 reps that will not require you to have admin access, admin settings and
SOC 2 and
yeah. We actually did have SOC 2 since day one, but a lot of things that larger teams or larger companies will ask you, we did not have. So my very firm belief is that as an early startup, you should not waste any of your engineering resources on anything that does not contribute to your product market fit. And admin settings do not contribute to your product market fit. Billing does not contribute to your product market fit. So first, very much focus on your product market fit, which is what is going to make your customers adore you. And then over time, as you get a tighter and tighter PMF, then you can start going more and more market over time and start serving teams that will require you more systems and settings that can work with their organizations.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And it reminds me kind of in our early days, right? And even not so long ago where people are like, oh, well, do you have this and this and this? I'm like, no, but we have this, which is actually going to move the needle for you versus, some nice little setting in admin that may be touched once or twice ever. Not that those things aren't important. It's just priority. Congrats on the growth. Congrats on, starting to charge this year. Sounds like you guys are, growing at a pretty crazy rate given everything that's going on in the market. So let's start first with what worked in 2023 for you?
I'll start with the top of the funnel. I actually start with even before that, product market fit, right? I tell anyone and everyone, you need to have product market fit before you hit the accelerator on growth. And so you should not even consider growing if you don't have tighter and tighter PMF. How do you even know that you should start charging your customers? Very easy. Go get 10 beta users for free and make a deal with them and try to see if within 2 months from there, 7 out of 10 will start paying for your services, right? From there, you'll actually, in our case, we didn't even have 7. We actually had 2 or 3 that were willing to pay, and we try to understand why, and then we double down on those winning features, right? So getting to early product market fit and then tightening it was kind of our biggest win throughout the year. From there, what I call growth stacking instead of growth hacking was extremely successful for us from a top of funnel perspective. What does that mean? That means that you run as many experiments as possible. You keep the ones that are working, that are winning, and you find a way to automate them, and then you add new ways of growth over and over, and that will actually give you exponential growth throughout the year and keep you growing anywhere between 30 to 60% month over month. Then when it comes to sales, it's been a great learning journey for me throughout the year. So from February to June, I sold alone as a founder and CEO. Then I added 2 reps, Connor and Jacob. I had to coach them on the product. I had to actually start dog fooding our product, not only as a user, but also as a manager and leader to understand within a second what really worked within our product, right? And so not only having the ability to talk to more and more customers that we were getting to understand what was extremely important for them, but also understanding what is extremely important for me as a sales leader and CEO at the end of the day, what we needed to go out and build an excellent product. That second part of the year, I would say June until now, has been more and more sales led. And me as a founder, I've been removing myself from more and more deals and just focusing on the biggest logos, biggest enterprise deals.
That's fantastic. I imagine it unlocked kind of a new level of empathy for you, not only for your customers, but for, you know, the personas and the economic buyers and the decision makers that you're selling to, because now you're having to look at the product from a different lens internally as well.
Exactly. Absolutely right. And we've learned a lot from our most sophisticated customers too, not only in terms of what we would do within the product, but also how we would sell ourselves, right? Like one of the best customers that we have taught us about the 3 whys, right? And obviously we knew about those. There's a lot of, resources out there about that. But when we understood why they were asking, why us, why now, why do anything, that just opened our eyes into how we could create so much more urgency and iterate on our message market fit to win these customers so that we could start building more automation around a lot of different things, because at the end of the day, what works in sales also works for marketing and your top of funnel. So we would capture everything that would be said within these conversations using attention and then re-inject it into our top of funnel. And that, me as a founder, but also as someone who's passionate in growth hacking, was my biggest learning this year.
That's amazing. I have so many questions, but we'll try and keep this short. You mentioned a lot about PMF, right? What does product market fit actually mean to you? Because everyone has their own definition of this.
At the end of the day, you feel it, right? It's just how much of your customers stick and keep upselling within your product. How much of them are referring you to other customers? How much of them are actually actively posting on your LinkedIn posts and commenting on it and saying how much they love your product and singing your praises? At the end of the day, you could use the superhuman approach, which is when you ask your customers, hey, if we were to take attention off your hands, how disappointed would you be? And if, 7 say very disappointed, then you have PMF, right?
Yeah. It's funny. We ran that in the very early days as well. And we did that and we got like an 85%. And we're like, that's it, product market fit. And lo and behold, obviously not. But in hindsight, you think you do, right? So awesome. Congrats again on a fantastic year. So those are all the things that worked. I imagine there's just as many, if not, of things, or hopefully maybe not, of things that didn't work. Do you mind going into like what were the biggest lessons? What were the biggest flops? Was there anything that was just a failure or a lesson or just didn't work for you guys?
I just wanted to go back on the earlier thing about product market fit. One of the last things that people forget is within product market fit, there's the market part, which is who is in your market, what does that competition look like, and how much space do they have? And you never retain your product market fit forever. So you always need to be innovating. Now, sorry for that parenthesis. I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Back to your question about what didn't work this year. I would say actually that at some moments earlier on, we tried to grow a little too fast and onboarding too many customers that while our engineering team was overstaffed, it was difficult to address all of those customer requests, right? And at one point, I remember there were a couple of customers that were way bigger than all the other customers that we had that were making a lot of requests. And we went through a very painful quarter with our engineers because there was so much to build. And we did not want to have any churn within our customer base. So we kind of had to work very hard and satisfy every single customer that we had. And eventually, unfortunately, we had one churn, but we learned from that one. And we went through a really, really hard time during that quarter. I would say that that's the biggest one. The other one is, I think a lesson learned is that you should not give your product away for free, right? We did that a few times. And what happens is if people try your product for free and they're not willing to spend anything into a paid POC, they're not going to take this seriously. So we will never do free trials. That's what I told the team, and I think that given the persona that we sell to, it is important to, hey, if they're going to take this seriously and they're going to invest their time, they could still spend a few $100 into that trial, because the time that they're going to invest to make this work is actually greater than whatever they're spending financially.
To that point, if they're not even willing to work internally to get, let's call it $200 approved, how hard are they really going to work to get 20,000 or 100,000 approved? So then I think I have an understanding, but what are your thoughts on all this PLG craze and everyone that's talking about PLG? Like, what are your opinions of that?
Yeah, PLG, I think really depends on who you're selling to, the buyer persona that you're targeting. If you're selling to sales, then PLG might not really make sense. If you actually need to connect with your customer systems and need to get some compliance approvals and IT reviews and so on, PLG is not really going to work out. If you are selling to engineers, to product managers, to growth hackers, then PLG makes a ton of sense. I spoke the other day with a startup that actually had one of the most insane growth rates ever, 10x actually this year, which is
Wow.
and they were telling me, look, interestingly enough, we had a 10x growth just through PLG because that's who they were selling to, right? And they tried an enterprise motion in parallel, and it didn't really yield any results. So at the end of the day, it really depends on who you're selling to, and it's very difficult to do both at the same time. Either you're going to define yourself as a PLG, motion for a while until you saturate your market, until you can't get any more growth out of it, or you stick with enterprise motion, sales led, and you can try to inject some virality into your product. You can try to inject some referral mechanisms, but at the end of the day, you'll still need sales or to keep selling your product.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, we went from top down PLG. Now we're kind of in the middle with product-led sales, where PLG kind of drives as like a lead gen, but 100% agree with you. What were some of your favorite best practices or hacks that you learned navigating this year?
One that I really liked, I think I just mentioned it earlier, is basically asking about the 3 whys within your sales conversations and re-injecting it into your top of funnel. That one was great. The second one, I would say, within growth stacking, I don't want to give away to all of my secrets, but some of the things that I think in 2023, we're also lucky that AI is commoditized and usable for everyone. And there are so many triggers and signals out there that you can leverage to write really good hyper-personalized emails instead of the shitty sequences that 90% plus of the companies are sending, right? One of the things that we did very early on over at Attention was we built a script that would, see if you spoke in a podcast, capture the transcripts, and then ask it automatically, hey, take Attention's value prop, which is this, and try to find anything within the transcript of that person's podcast that could resonate with what our value prop is, right? And then reach out to that person and say, hey, I just listened to your podcast. I absolutely love when you spoke about coaching scorecard. This is actually what we currently offer today. And it seemed like this was important to you. Do you want to chat with us? And all this would be automated with AI, and we would do this really, really well. And we actually would get anything between 20 to 30% response rates. Actually, it was more like 10 to 15 positive response rates.
I mean, but still, the fact that you're doing this completely automated with AI, it's incredible. I think in a couple of years, we'll have 5 people doing the work of 50.
Exactly. One of the things though that I do think is that in the future, maybe people will be responding less and less to these emails because they won't have any clue whether this was generated by a human or an AI, or some of the people might just still care about, hey, this might just help me today because I'm having this pain, right? This is where I think intent data is extremely important, right? Like who visited your website, who visited your G2 competitor website within a specific time, have they visited one of your blog pages uh, recently based on a specific Google search and so on. And that intent data will actually help you a lot into getting warmer leads because your value prop might just resonate with the pain that they're having.
Well, it's to play devil's advocate around the AI. Does it matter if it came from a human or not, if it's driving value? But who knows, right? I mean, I do think people in general are going to be way more skeptical of phone calls, emails, conversations, videos, and even just what we're seeing right now, which is like first gen work, which is going to be completely outdated in what, 6 to 12 months. I think it's going to be very different. So I guess want to dive in, right? This is your second startup. What was your biggest 1 or 2 lessons from the first startup that
Yeah,
helped you now kind of, skip ahead in some of this with your second time around?
they're really simple, honestly. But the very first one is get to product market fit before you hit the accelerator on growth. That is just kind of engraved in my brain right now.
Same for me. We that was also a lesson.
Yeah, I would say the second one today is just do not compromise on the quality of the employees that you're hiring because the cost of a mishire is going to be way bigger than whatever pennies you're saving, right? So just go out and hire really, really, really good talent. And that's why today we're not afraid to pay really good salaries. I won't care what any investor ever tells me. I will just spend the right amount for the right candidate. And that amount might not just be cash, it could be equity, right? And as a seed stage startup, you know that if a sales rep asks you for a 300K OTE, he or she might not be the right rep for you because they should be understanding that 300K OTE is too high. But will we pay 240, 250 plus equity? Yes, we'll do it because we do think that the top reps will be very much in demand, and same for engineers. And so you need to be able to pay the right amount for the right people.
I can't agree any more than what 1000% agreed. Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons we had too is that you have this fallacy where you think having someone in the seat doing the job is better than no one, and that could not be further from the truth. It is going to not only take away time from other projects, but now you also have to coach this person who probably is not going to work out eventually. And so shouldering that work and either not doing it or doing it yourself or having the team take on more responsibility is 10 times more important than hiring someone that's B level, C level in that role. I 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. I've been spending so much time actually thinking during my free time about this, which is how we filter for people that we hire. So there's two things, two levels. The first one is every single person that we've hired and that we're going to keep hiring needs to be on a quest for excellence, right? And you have shown me in the past that you've tried to be the best at your field in the world and that all you care about is being the best at what you do. And as an example, like one of our reps here was at one point the highest paid professional frisbee player in the world. And it's he calls it he makes fun of it, but I think that is a really big signal of someone who tried to be the best in the world at what he did, right? Our other rep, spends so much time reading and listening to different things that are going not to make him today the best AE possible, but also one day the best head of sales, and is always thinking 2 positions ahead of what he's doing. And in full transparency, he is a better seller than I am, right? This is also what I'm trying to assess with every single engineer too, right? I don't manage the engineers directly, but with one of my one-on-ones with one of the engineers who we gave a raise to, I made a joke and said, hey, what are you going to do with the raise? And he responded, I'm going to get a bigger home office so I could keep working harder for attention. That made my day.
All right, there you go. Raise plus more, right? Is that Ricky on the frisbee?
No, his name is fine.
Okay, cool. I was doing some Googling while you were talking. But I love what you said about the conquest for excellence, right? Ultimately. Thank you. This has been amazing. So obviously recapping 2023, what are you going to do differently in 2024? What are you really excited about? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think now the way we're looking at things is how do we sustain our current growth rate, right? So we're going to have to put in more scalable systems in place, not only in terms of lead generation funnels, but also in terms of recruitment. And this is kind of like what I'm looking forward to for the next year. For every next people that we're going to hire, how do we optimize, the recruitment? How do we make sure that they're not only reps, because reps can ramp up with our own product at this point, but actually just make sure that within day 3 they can start selling their reps, or within engineers, week 2, week 3, they're already fully ramped up. And that is going to require us a lot of organization because this past year we've been doing a lot of things that didn't scale.
Do you have an idea of how you're going to ramp reps that quickly?
Using attention.
Okay, I love it.
Actually, both Connor and Jacob. So we're selling on day 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we made them offers 2 weeks before they started each, and during those 2 weeks, they were already into the system, learning from my own calls. So the goal that we give each one of them was that month 1, they both had to get to 10K of ARR just to get that motivation going and get them comfortable selling. And both of them were over 20K of ARR within month 1. It's a very small, small amount, but it's just very symbolic for us.
That's amazing. I mean, so many teams don't even get anything until month 4, 5, 6. What's your ACV for reference?
Today it's like 40K average, 30 to 40K.
Okay.
But the minimum ACVs that we close are around, now at least, they're around 8K. They used to be closer to 6K before, and when we started, they were closer to 3K. The minimum was.
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, they're getting substantial revenue that first month. I mean, first week even. That's fantastic. So I want to take a step back a little bit, because you mentioned, one of the biggest lessons you had was the 3 whys. We've got a couple minutes here left over. For anyone listening, like obviously everyone's familiar or should be with the 3 whys, but why is it that that was your biggest lesson? What was so important about the 3 whys and how you incorporated, or how your customer told you about it, that made it the biggest lesson of the year?
Yeah, most people get it wrong, right? A lot of people try, and when you have a conversation with a VC, they'll tell you, what is the ROI behind your product? I think the question is wrong. What people really care about is the cost of status quo, right? The cost of not moving forward with something, the cost of not fixing this. So that is extremely important. So why do anything is extremely important. And until you're able to figure that part out with your prospect, you might not be able to close your deal. Why now actually helps you understand compelling events that make your prospects come to you. So that helps you from a top of funnel perspective, but also understand things better to close your deal. And the last one is why attention, which is iterate on your message market fit. We never really thought about any other element of medpic will not help you understand these. And so you have to add this into your medpic fields to be able to get a full understanding of how you can progress your deal forward.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I remember you brought up a lot of this on the webinar that we had you on, where we talked about the 3 whys. What are your goals or resolutions for 2024, aside from world domination? It sounds like
biggest goal is customers, make them as happy as possible. That's the biggest one. And actually increased revenue is a resultant of that. That is the biggest thing I care about, is the happiness of our customers.
Yeah.
Employees in the second order, make sure that they're as happy working every single day with us. That should keep our owners satisfied, the investors.
If you don't focus on that, nothing else will matter, because you're not going to be able to build a sustainable business without it.
So. Exactly.
Anis, this is fantastic. I know we were supposed to run for 3-4 minutes. I think we ran for 15-20. I think there's some really great nuggets in here. Where can people find you really quick as a wrap up, and anything you want to share, maybe give a quick plug for attention?
Yeah, add me on LinkedIn and Bennaceur or follow me. My inbox is destroyed, so please don't email me. And you can also follow our LinkedIn page at Attention.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Check out Attention, attention.tech.